All right, we're good to go. We're gonna be on Nightshade of all places, Kuro's favorite map.
Math history. Oh, match history. Right. Kuro's favorite map. She is very much of a. I want to say goth, but at the same time, I wonder if that's offensive.
She's a flower connoisseur.
So actually, that is true. She has plants. And speaking of plants, here we have it. We in the first non-mirror matchup of the evening. I am getting very excited for that, but it's also just the third matchup for the evening. Here we have the over in the top left-hand corner map, swatting in the top left-hand corner of Nightshade, LE, otherwise known as Belladonna. We have our blue spawning all the way in the top left-hand corner map, all the way from Australia. He is going to be representing Downfall Gaming. I got a feeling he just beat Debbie, so I got a feeling that he's pretty happy. He's Chappy.
What a happy Chappy.
What a happy Chappy.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Nightshade LE, we have the Australian Protoss, currently two-time ESL Open Cup Fueled by Dare champion. He is representing Legacy Esports. It is Probe.
All right, show us what you got, Chappy. Show us what you got.
So last week we had Chase with the massive upsets.
Did.
Is Chappy gonna pull it off?
Chase couldn't quite bring it all the way home that day, but it was definitely a miracle run. He did obviously pull off his hotly remembered, very memorable proxy hatch over in.
Were you trying to remember what he did? Like, what did he do? Just buying some time.
I was trying to remember the words.
God damn it.
I was trying to remember the words.
Chase went for an insane strat. He stacked two drones on top of each other. He snuck into the main base of Probe and he proxy hatched in the main base of Probe, and it worked. It was crazy.
We did see a clip from Probe stream the other day, right after the game ended, I think. It was insane. Probe was not prepared for that.
Not at all.
He didn't realize until the very end.
He shook the very core of the ANZ scene with that build. It was crazy. That was... it's such a shame that Chase didn't make it to the finals, because that was the pinnacle of ANZ StarCraft right there. That was beautiful.
That was, you know what? That was 6 years of Mio Micah and Pig and all the rest. It was leading up to that moment.
Yeah, that was it. And
speaking of it, Probe is going for that Stargate.
Oh, okay.
I think we were mentioning it a little bit earlier, but Probe is definitely a Protoss player that likes his Stargate. He is, especially in PvZ, he likes to play it a little bit safe.
Yeah. We were talking about how he's more of like a defensive Protoss. He's more standard. He very rarely, I don't know if I've ever seen him proxy or cannon rush or anything like that.
Maybe not proxy, but he
maybe
does
in the
have
PvP.
a couple. Maybe in PvP he'll proxy, but even in PvZ, I think actually from the week where the week from where we had Parting versus Scarlet, we had Scarlet versus Probe, where I think Probe went for a 2-base carrier build. That didn't work out, but it was interesting to say the least.
It was very interesting. We had a lot of DVPs that day.
Yeah, we did.
And yeah, we'll see how Chappy shapes up to Probe and see if he has anything crazy, anything Scarlet-esque up his sleeve. As he does throw down a Roach Warren, and he does have quite a number of queens.
Indeed he does. Chappy is well aware of how Probe operates here. And it's just going to, once again, just counter it, essentially. He's reacting pretty well. Quick reaction here on the drones. And they will get tagged, but that's probably the best case scenario that Chappy was hoping for. He's pretty happy, Chappy is.
Chappy is very happy, and unfortunately he's losing a little mining time. This is kind of the price you pay for skipping spores and going for a higher queen count instead. And he's marching,
pulling
man.
It all. There we have it.
Yeah.
Chappy is not quite all in, but he is super committed here. He knows he's going up against Stargate, so the queens are gonna have to be pulled out of retirement.
He is link flooding behind this. Yeah, we've got 4 queens, we've got a bunch of roaches and ravagers, we've got 3 hatcheries pumping out nothing but lings going across the map. He is a little bit supply blocked there. Not supply blocked even, he's getting ready for it. And it looks like the ravagers are going to get focused down by the oracles.
Not all of the army is together. That's a very clutch transfuse if I've ever seen one. But now the army is kind of splitting itself. Chappy's army is. So it's not really fighting as one.
Yeah, and
this is going to be tough for Chappy to really break, considering that there are 2 shield batteries and a heck of a lot of high energy sentries. But already the third base of Probe has gone down. This is, I still think it's in anyone's hands.
Yeah, this is looking kind of good for Probe. He does have 2 shield batteries already, you know, like storing up energy, ready to help out as well. He has a bunch of oracles ready to dive in. But Chappy, he has a lot of transfuse energy, so it could go either way.
Ooh, good force fields here coming out from Probe, and this does isolate some of the Ravagers, and that's really the money unit here for Chappy. It's the Ravagers and the Queens right now that he really needs to keep alive.
That indeed he does, and it looks like now, behind... what are drones doing here?
Spine Rush.
Yeah, it looks like
no, the Queens are getting isolated here. I think this might just be it. If Probe can hold against this, he can move across the map, but that's also a pretty big if. Probe has just held it.
He has held it, and with flying colors. He did lose his 3rd in the process, but that isn't like the biggest deal. I feel like that's the minimum that Chappy wanted. Chappy wanted to at least kill the 3rd base, and maybe reset the immortal count. He didn't get any immortals. He got a bunch of sentries, which, you know, it counts for something at least. And Chappy, you know, he's joining up behind this. Oh my god, there's no spores!
No, there are not, and there are no queens either. Key point.
No.
These oracles are going to have a field day, but they are starting to run out of energy. If Chappy can just continue to kite them, but he's not.
My god.
14 drones have already gone down.
Yeah, now they're equal. Like,
equalized.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Chappy, his worker count was looking really solid behind this. Like, he could totally macro out of this situation, but he just lost an entire mineral line. Like any advantage he had just went away, and now, as you said, they're kind of equal or equalized.
Which, I mean, when they equalize on the worker count, that does kind of mean that Probe has the advantage there.
That's
both because
exactly
of how,
what it means.
both because of how Protoss macro works, and because Probe built up an army behind us, a pretty sizable army.
A pretty scary army. Like, you could even argue that if Probe pushed out right now with his immortals and sentries, like, he could deal a lot of damage, potentially even end the game. Like, how many immortals is that? Jesus Christ.
That is Elconit for you. Like, that is 5 immortals and 2 archons. When the second archon is finished, Probe is looking like he's going to move across the map fairly soon. Okay, going to be waiting for that warp prism and potentially that +1 weapons. But yeah, Chappy is going to have to gear up a defense here. He is getting his 4th base, which I actually kind of like. He knows that he needs to get some kind of an advantage. He knows just how committed his move out was and how much he lost there. So he needs to make up for that, but it might be a little bit of bad timing.
Yeah, the problem is that like Probe, he's been able to save up all of his robo units, like all of his tech units. He still has his oracles as well as his phoenix, like, or maybe he lost his phoenix, but he has so many oracles as well. Like he just has so much available to him to utilize in this upcoming fight, and now he's pushing towards the fourth.
And the fourth is gone. That fourth just came up.
Yeah.
Someone just paid off your mortgage and your tornado flies down.
And they just hate it when that happens.
Yeah, in this case, it's a tornado of zealots. They just sort of whir around. But yeah, this is pretty good positioning from Chappy, but again, it's really hard to be too optimistic here for this Roach Ravager army. Probe pretty much just has an army that counters that.
Yeah, and all these stasis wards are being thrown down as well, just so he doesn't get surrounded. I love that. That's so smart by Probe. And yeah, there's just so many mortals who Archons as well, sentries with force fields.
Oh, but the biles are starting to land. All right, not as deadly as I thought it would be,
Ooh.
but they definitely help. Good use of the stasis ward there. And once again, things are just getting increasingly worrying for our happy Chappy player.
Yeah, not so happy anymore. We have the Protoss just pushing into the third base. He already killed the fourth. He's getting a fourth behind this as well. Oh my god, the Oracles are just raining down on the army. There's no queens, there's no anti-air.
Getting the units once they come out of stasis. That's a goof, and Probe just has the momentum on his side. But he's not even going straight for the kill. He is just gonna try to weaken his opponent by denying these bases for as long as he can before he commits to actually ending it.
Yeah, he's clearing up the creep. He's denying the fourth base once again. Like he's just, making sure he's crossing his T's. He's dotting his I's. He gets a couple of queens, and now he's getting ready to end it and push into the third base of Chappy.
But this is still a little bit of a compromised position to push up into.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Ravagers, there's a lot of Roaches.
But but at the end of the day, it seems like Probe just has enough. Way more than enough, I would say. Doesn't want to eat too many biles, but he should have the units. Okay, Banelings are starting to crash in, but they mostly connect with a single Archon. Yeah, this should just about be the beginning of the end here.
Yeah, the third is going to go down. 30 workers went down at the same time. All these chargelets come in. GG.
And there we have it. Probe. We'll be taking map number 1.
Yeah, again, it could have been such a different game. Like, Chappy...
Go ahead.
Go on.
I was just gonna say, as I catch up on chat here, that would have been a much different game if Chappy didn't go for 2 Baneling this.
I didn't even notice.
Nor I.
That could have changed things. I will say that.
Out to us.
Yeah, the probably the biggest thing was Chappy after that. After his push failed, or after he killed the third base and then he was forced back home. He didn't have defensive spores at his third, and any advantage that he had, remember, he lost 14 workers to the
14.
Yeah, to the Oracle counterattack. Like that was
and part of the reason why was just because of how committed he was to his initial push. He pulled every single queen and didn't start to remake them until it actually looked like the game would go on for longer.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, he was being greedy, and his anti-air was queens for Oracle defense, if you recall. And they had all walked across the map, right? So he just didn't have that there to protect his bases.
And he did not. But let's see if things start to turn around here in the Eternal Empire.
Yeah, game number 2 between these two Aussie players, Australian players.
And
I was just going to mention that Miyamika and Pez, they're kind of waiting for us in the bracket.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't keep them waiting for too long. And I think Probe knows that. Or no, wait. basically what I was going to go into is Eternal Empire tends to be a map that Protoss players in general, but I definitely think it also applies to Probe, or especially applies to Probe. Protoss players kind of like going a little cheeky on Eternal Empire. Not, you know, not full on Gruyere cheese, but you know, just a little cheeky.
A little cheeky, like American cheese, maybe, like
It's like, yeah, it's like you know, artificial cheese flavoring, that kind of thing.
yeah, it's kind of cheese, but not really.
Exactly. You know, it's like a craft single. But speaking of cheese, this player sometimes does it, sometimes doesn't. But the player who is spawning out here in Eternal Empire, ELE, of course, standing for exits, encourage long entrances. I figured that one out. It is spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner. Our Blues gonna be representing Downfall Gaming as well as the AN in ANZ. He should have been feeling pretty happy, but now not feeling it too much. Everybody give it up for Chappy.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Eternal Empire LE, we have the Australian Protoss representing Legacy Esports, two-time ESL Open Cup champion. It is Pro.
See if he makes that three. That big three.
Yeah, he could. I mean, again, Seether isn't there, you know, like which is like the typical like contender, I would say. So, but at the same time, we could also have a new champion, you know, like Pez or Miyamaka could step up, or Chappy.
I was gonna say.
I mean, I'm honestly, I'm a little bit surprised that Chappy went for a hatch first. He didn't go for like an early pool or anything like that. I assumed he was going to rush and be aggressive as he was like against Demi, but instead playing a little bit more straight up.
Indeed, he is, and so is Probe, as a matter of fact. So it's not gonna be not even gonna be that craft single. Not even gonna be that snack that's cheese flavored.
What are you?
Cheezels.
Not even.
Cheezels.
I mean, you say that. We do have a Twilight Council on the way for Probe, as opposed to his regular Stargate opening. I imagine this is for Glaves. I imagine we're gonna see some Adepts. To be fair, though,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I was gonna say that obviously when it comes to Protoss, like, you know, DTs are always a possibility, or you know, legs.
I actually think that's a new meta, DTs. Because you're not looking to really end them out. You're just looking to maybe do a little bit of damage, and then if you can't get any done, you're scouting in more from the Archons and transit and go about your business. Go back to your macro.
Yeah, and it looks like in the end, Probe, he's not going for going for Glaives, not going for DTs. He's going for Zealot legs of all things.
I was gonna say earlier on, I kind of doubted Glaive Adepts. I thought, what else could it be? But at the same time, Eternal Empire is not really a map you see a lot of that Glaive Adept build on. The distance between the natural and the third, I think, is a bit longer.
Yeah, it's definitely harder to get those shades to work and bounce between all the three bases. But instead, we do have a Warp Prism and Zealot legs, which could catch Chappy off guard. Chappy, he did go in with his Overlord, but even if you do see...
It kind of got sniped.
Yeah, it got sniped, so he didn't get to see exactly what kind of tech was coming out. And even if he did see the Twilight Council, it's hard to judge what tech is coming with that, what kind of upgrade as well. So we'll see how Chappy's able to deal with it. He does have a Roach Horn, so he will potentially have Roaches to defend. And he does spot the Warp Prism, which is nice.
A couple of Archives immediately behind that as well from Probe. I I was kind of expecting a Forge, maybe some kind of charge all in, but he's going for a more traditional Archon Chargler then. What'd I tell you, Light? What did I tell you? Eternal Empire, Probe, well, Protoss in general, but especially Probe, they pull out something they pull out a little craft single.
This is like some kind of traditional cheese right here. Not even cheese. Two Warp Prisms of all things. What? Is this intentional? Okay.
It might be. We have kind of seen. Oh, that's a lot of queens coming in here, but the Warp Prism does manage to evade it, and the charge is down. I think it is intentional. We do see it a lot more often nowadays. Protoss players trying to go for a bit of multi-pronged drops, kind of like how Terran has their medevacs go multiple different locations. But in this case, Probe is using them more for. He wanted a bit of a distraction earlier while he set up his Archons.
Yeah, and I mean, whether it was intentional or not, like, he is trying to make it work. He did warp in these Archons, these High Templars, with this Warp Prism, trying to deal what damage he can. Trades pretty efficiently so far.
And there's that forgery wall we were all waiting for. Probe is still a little, I guess you couldn't really call him behind. He hasn't been able to do a lot of damage here, but at the same time, economically,
you say that.
Slouching.
Yeah.
Two drones.
Two drones went down, a little bit of lost mining time. The War Prism almost went down. Like, I feel like if it dives in again, especially because there's already a Spore there, like, it could just immediately go down. Probe has to be so careful with that.
Yeah, I don't think Probe should risk that at all. But Probe is pretty much just keeping Chappy back. Chappy, meanwhile, gonna be building up for another timing attack. This time it's gonna be +1 melee. Okay, so we should see a switch into Lings. There's the Spire.
Oh, I like this. He's going full Demi on us. Spire tech. Okay. So we will be saying a Mutal transition, which is questionable, especially because he did already see a couple of Archons out on the map. And Archons can do fairly well, but, you know, if Probe just has those two Archons, if by some chance this War Prism gets sniped of all things, then Chappy could be in a good position.
And that's why Chappy is going for the Mutas. Gonna have to snipe that Warp Prism.
Yeah, it's
playing with fire here, Probe is. But it does what you pick up and leave right before that the shields went to 0. Chappy going in for another little scout here, but there's not really much to see. It's just gonna really confirm Chappy's suspicions here. Yep, those are gateways. That is the Twilight Council. You got what I thought you had.
Yeah, I mean, he does scout that the Twilight Council is upgrading once again, so you can maybe deduce that Blink is on the way as well. And the thing that's a little bit of a shame is that Blink Stalkers will help against Mutalisks.
Yeah, that's probably why he did go for the Blink. Probe is going triple Forge.
Huh. Okay.
Well,
I feel like you don't see this so often
every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible that he just forgot that he already had the first Forge, but
I was thinking,
maybe we might see him. Maybe we might see him. You know, he's investing quite a bit into Archons, but he also wants his Gateway army. Maybe he's going in. Maybe he's getting triple upgrades. Who knows?
Maybe. So far, he's only getting 2, and it looks like the army is pouncing in. It looks like the queens will be going down. 1 gets sniped. But so far, I feel like Chappy should be okay. As long as he defends against this War Prism, though. There's no Spire in the main. A Spire? A Spore.
Yeah, and that War Prism is going to do a lot of damage. A lot of roaches going to be able to sneak through these force field barriers, but they do have to grapple with the Immortals here. But is there enough for Chappy?
Yeah, the Mutalisks are already across the map.
But they are starting to get sniped. They were A-moved. And they did focus on the Stalker and the Cannons.
Yeah, unfortunately they did. But it looks like Chappy, he's winning the main fight here. All the sentries went down. The Immortals are pretty low as well. And he could maybe shave one off. It looks like finally Probe is using that War Prism in the main base of Chappy. So far, only a couple of workers went down. And it looks like Chappy's going to be able to defend.
Yeah, there's someone getting that Archon surrounded. Probe.
With his 4th base, though.
Yeah, the 4th base is under a lot of damage here. Chappy just being picked apart. Doesn't really know where to start defending. Gonna bring his entire army down into his third, but meanwhile over in his main.
Yeah, he's kind of being pulled apart. His army is coming back into his main base to try and defend that, but it leaves his fourth exposed as well. So right now, Probe, he's winning on both fronts.
This is not the most efficient split of army coming in from Chappy, but such an insane value coming out from Probe.
At the same time, it looked like Chappy, he was trying to deal damage at this fourth base. Oh my god, the Spire's gonna go down.
And there goes Chappy's harassment potential. There goes how Chappy really comes back economically.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing going for Chappy is that he did save his fourth base. Like, it got so low, it was so close to going down, but he did manage to save it, and we'll see, because it's such a shame, because Chappy, he was defending pretty well in the beginning, but slowly Probe was able to pull him apart, and now he has a pretty sizable force here at the fourth base.
This might be the final blow here, but it's still not something that Probe just wants to A move. Oh, the Mutas are gonna take out the Warp Prism. Where are they? You know, the fight is going on in the fourth base once again. Meanwhile, more back and forth. The good old dynamic that we're used to: Force Fields versus Ravages, or Corrosive Vial, I should say. But the army of Chappy is starting to get thinned out. He is trying to get a concave here, but between the Blink, the Immortals, it's not really working out for him. So many drones are starting to go down, and I think we just have our third/fourth semifinals of the evening, Light.
It was just too much for Chappy, like trying to defend in so many places at once.
Ooh. That was an interesting build.
Yeah, like the charge lots, double warp prism, whether it was intentional or not, like it worked out for him. I was checking, he was only getting 2 upgrades at a time. I do believe it was a mistake. But GG, well played.
And like that, we should have both our semifinals ready here. Azure versus Oreo should have finished up. We're just gonna form the score from them. But before we go into that, we will be going into Mio Micah versus Pez. We've kept them waiting for a little while, so hoping that we can jump in immediately.